What's the next stage?
Welcome back to the Media Guys Lokova Show with me, Media Guys Lokova. We're here with a late Christmas video. Last year for Christmas, we started a review series of Kyoryuger. Pretty decent show, which I ended up liking a lot when I finished it. Thanks for the 24K views in the compilation video. But this year for Christmas, it is time for me to treat myself. Talking about another Super Sentai. In this case, my favorite Super Sentai, Zuden Sentai, Kyoryuger. You know the format if you've seen any of my past videos. Get your drinks and get your food as I start talking about a top 1 show, just of all time. Starting off with the story. Kyoryuger follows the events of the rebirth of the Boss Tribe, a group that destroyed the dinosaurs 65 million years ago. Now they're back to try and revive the titular Lord the Boss by absorbing people's happiness, anger, and sadness. Once revived, the Boss will bring on the destruction of the Earth, like he did to many planets in the past. In order to prevent this calamity, a giant birdman named Torin creates the, at the time, largest Sentai group in history, with 10 members. This group is known as the Kyoryugers, people that follow the path of the mighty lizards, being able to bond with the spirits of dinosaurs. Honestly, Kyoryuger has one of the best presented stories in all of Sentai. Mainly as unlike some Sentai, like for example the last Sentai we talked about, Ryu Soldier, you never feel like the show stagnates with the story. Mainly has every few episodes of one-off content used to give the characters a bit more focus, broken up with an episode that makes a giant shake-up in the story. Like you get the 4 first episodes to bring in the team together. Then episodes 5 and 6 introduction of the first extra character, that being Cyan. Then you get 2 more episodes that are one-off where we get into the multi-part introduction of Kyoryuger Gold, him properly join the team. With this format, it always feels the story is going somewhere, thus helping to keep people invested in that aspect of the show, which when paired with some pretty good one-off episodes help the characters shine even more than they do in the major story beats, makes for the perfect structure for a Sentai. But I did say characters, right? Let's get into how good they are. Let's start off with an individual section for Kyoryuger himself, Daigo Kiryu, or King as everyone calls him. This guy is the character I want to talk about the most, as he's the most controversial aspect of the series. For years, I had to come online and hear people hating on his name, by calling him annoying, overly perfect, actually takes away his spotlight and character focus away from his teammates, and I just never understood any of that, to be honest. Especially now that I'm slightly more well-versed in Sentai and did this rewatch. Those factors make me come to the conclusion is that Daigo isn't really special in any of these aspects that people for, but somehow he was just a step too far for people. Like, Daigo ain't really any more annoying than any other Sentai writer's personality, pretty much just the main protagonist of your typical shonen anime, your Narutos, your Luffy's. It also fits to the type of loud and bombastic show Kyoryuger is. When your main characters are having full choreographed dance number every time they transform, you need a loud and outgoing protagonist to match that energy. The overly perfect point seems like a problem until you realize that's kind of, well, the show's intention. Yes, Daigo is pretty much perfect, but that's just because the fact that he's supposed to be the embodiment of the series' theme of bravery. Daigo is truly bravery personified. He's willing to do anything with nothing holding him back. A character trait that he uses to inspire his friends to become more brave, as he sees the best in all of them, and helps to bring out that potential by inspiring them to become more brave. That way they can overcome their issues. All good traits that make for an effective leader for his team. The show is even smart about this aspect, as they focus the arc of Kyoryuger's introduction on Daigo. Basically, the conflict being that his natural bravery is not enough, as he can only grow his bravery by acknowledging something that he truly fears, as bravery is literally rooted in the concept of overcoming fears. The answer he comes to is losing his team as his fear. A generic answer, but an answer that fits Daigo's character, helps give a bit more depth to his character. Then there's the final and last point, that he takes away the other character's spotlight, a point which is just subjectively untrue. There are tons of episodes and moments in Kyoryuger. The show de-emphasizes Daigo's importance to give the other characters their time to shine. Even after he gets his red only power up, Kyoryu Red Carnival, they still do that. Honestly, I feel like this complaint only came up because of the fact he defeats the final villain by himself, which is stupid for 2 reasons. The first reason is that the scene where Daigo defeats the boss is literally peak fiction, too cool for the fact that he did it by himself to matter. And the second point is that the other characters still got stuff to do during that point in time, that you would have to actively omit to act like those weren't cool important moments either, which is basically how I feel overall about the complaints about Daigo. Aside from me thinking Daigo's overall a really fun and entertaining character, I feel to act like he's the be-all and end-all of the show is actively valuing the other characters in the show, way more than the show itself ever does, which I don't get because the other Kyoryugers are great characters who are more than worthy of your attention. To start off the section, you have Ian Yorkland, Kyoryu Black, a very cool and collected type of guy who prides himself on his great love with women, making him a very entertaining character to watch throughout the show, with his very dry sense of humor. The one where he sees Kyoryuger and Pink really just vibe during a fight, making him see their chemistry together, and he says this sucks and starts beating up the enemy harder, is one of the funniest moments in the show. But the thing that makes Ian really great is his backstory, as he oftentimes uses his coolness to hide his true feelings and situations. Mostly done because he doesn't want to get close to anybody, after failing to save his best friend from dying to a member of the boss. An event that he doesn't forgive himself for, and makes him not want to fail another person like that again. And the easiest way to do that is to not be close to anybody. But Daigo gets him to stop acting like this, and he joins the team proper. But his issues doesn't stop there, as he still hasn't killed the guy who truly killed his friend. The killer being the boss general, Igaron. When the two finally meet, Ian's enraged to the point where he is unable to think straight, leading to Daigo being put in a life or death scenario. The type of thing that Ian avoid people in order to prevent happening. But he won't leave the people that allowed him to believe in others. Instead, he'll value the importance that Igaron has in his mind, an action that allows him to be able to save Daigo in a moment of pure coolness. Something which continues throughout the series, as Ian, unlike one would expect, doesn't get some grand final clash against Igaron. He doesn't get to feel any happiness at his death or any relief. All he can feel is the sorrow of watching a man slowly crumble away and having to be the one to put him out of his misery. A very sad way to end his arc, but I think it makes Ian even more special than he is otherwise for just being a good character. Also, his character song, Solid Bullet, is a banger. You then get to Nobuharu Udo, or No-san, or Kyoryu Blue. He's a wacky old man, constantly making the worst puns known to man. Bro literally creates chills in the other characters with how bad his jokes are. But behind this goofy persona shows a man who has pushed everything aside for his family, as he quits his original job to help run his brother-in-law's business after he dies. That way he can help out his sister and niece, both of which he's scared of figuring out he's a Kyoryuger, rather than actually mind learning to respect him more after learning the fact. Honestly, bro's just a lovable goofball who's always trying his best, making him endlessly endearing. The episode where he has to essentially fight the monster all on his own due to its ability making the rest of the team super lazy supplemented his GOAT status in my eyes. You then get the Soji Rippikan, or Kyoryu Green, a teenage kendo prodigy who has a hard time expressing himself, pretty much being base level annoyed at the start of the show. This is mainly because of his dad's harsh and strict sword training regimen, causing him to resent him, especially his dad's dislike of the more wild sword style he adopted as a Kyoryuger in order to rebel against him. But due to the other Kyoryugers, he was able to gain the courage to speak up about his issues with his dad, thus improving his relationship with him, and improving his attitude with others in general. Him trying to be slightly more open, as seen with the episode with his childhood best friend, who has a crush on him, where he actively going out of his way to make efforts to show his thanks to her, such as asking Kyoryu Pink to help him pick out a gift for her. I mean, he's still too dense to understand how much she likes him, but that's an action Soji probably wouldn't have done before. There's also the episode where he meets his mom, and we see how the entire time, despite his close-off nature, he's been trying to protect others and their feelings. With him treating his dad in the divorce, is seeing how sad he was having felt that he failed his family. I don't know what to say, the antisocial sword boy is just endearing to me. I also like the relationship he has with Ian and the team's mentor Torin. As with Ian, it's like this nice thing to see these guys who try to use their coolness to hide their issues with people come together, and Torin because he helps him become better with his swordsmanship, and seeing how proud he is when he finally is able to pull off his move Torini's Tracer, after finally being able to get over these issues he has with his mom is great to see. Also, he's just really cool. His reverse grip fighting style legitimately was the hardest thing I'd ever seen when I first watched the show. That even gets to the last of the main five, Amy Yuzuki, or Kyoryu Pink, and she's where I have my complaints with the show. Everything else pretty good to arguable perfection, except her. And it's not even because she herself is bad. Well, she's pretty much just female Daigo, that being a cool person who helps her teammates become better, as seen with her relationship with Soji and the character I'm about to talk about after her, Uchi. At the same time, most of her screen time is dedicated to weird fetish bait, which is deeply weird and unnecessary every time it comes up, which combined with the fact that she gets much less moments to shine compared to her other teammates, she really isn't the best character on this team. But we now get to our 6th ranger, Uchi Semimaru, or Uchi, or Kyoryu Gold. When we first meet Uchi, he's trapped within one of the boss general known as the Gold, who's a living suit of armor, having used Uchi, who was a samurai during the Sengoku era, as his wearer for 400 years. When he's able to break free of the Gold in the current year, 2013, he's a massive douchebag to the group, wanting to keep his distance from them, which ain't out of the ordinary for a 6th ranger. But this is where the twist comes in, as in reality, Uchi's a really sweet and kind guy, but the only reason that he puts up this aloof and distant douchebag stuff is due to him feeling responsible for the death of his lord, who just so happens to look like Daigo, leading Uchi to want to keep his distance from him especially. But the minute Daigo learns about it, he tells Uchi how stupid that is. Daigo, despite everyone calling him king, doesn't want to be held on some pedestal by people. He literally just wants to be friends with them. They should be equals in his eyes. Which when Uchi comes to realization, he finally drops a douchebaggery, and one of the most hyped scenes in the show happens. The speech Uchi gives about how his lord is his lord, and king is king, and King his friend. And that's how it always should have been, is one of the best scenes in the show. This is how I would recommend the show to people, man. Outside of that, again, which is just really funny. Seeing how unaware he is about the modern world and his extreme politeness just comes together to create one great six-ranger. Then after Uchi, we get to Tessai and Ramirez, Kyoryuger and Cyan, who are spirit rangers, which are rangers who, while long dead, have spirits so strong they can fight as Kyoryugers in modern time. They aren't really important, but their characteristics of Chinese martial artists and white man who injects a massive amount of English into his speech makes them pretty memorable. Then you get to Yayoi Ushade, or Kyoryu Violet, who alongside her grandfather is tech specialist of the Kyoryugers. Her struggle is that she wants to become a Kyoryuger but is unable to do so due to her self-doubt of not being good enough to be with the others. Until she realized that there is no good enough to being a Kyoryuger. If you want to become one, then you can become one, allowing for her to become Kyoryu Violet, an indisputable aspect of the team. She also has a massive crush on Daigo, knowing pretty much everything there is to know about bro, which in a lot of cases would come off as creepy, but they kind of make it pretty funny. When Tessai says in one episode some girl important to the movie, in that episode, love for Daigo has given them the advantage, and Yoi just retorts with, I don't know how I feel about that, is super funny. We have last, certainly not least, Torin, their mentor, and also Kyoryu Silver. Torin's an interesting guy, despite what you would think with him being the mentor of the series, he's actually related to the boss, being one of the two beings created to destroy planets in his name. But unlike his brother Chaos, who did his genocide gleefully, when Torin came to the Earth, he questioned why he would kill any of this planet. It was something that he thought was worth protecting, not destroying, leading him to turn face against his creator, which while noble, has led to him suffering many tragedies, the main one of note being the death of his dinosaur partner, Brigigas, an event that shook him to his core so much that he could never transform into a Kyoryuger himself, instead having to find multiple different warriors throughout history to take up the task, but despite their efforts, they could still never defeat the boss for good, leading to the present day, where he's nothing more than a decrepit old man who can't be out in the open too long, his body will turn to stone. But eventually Torin realizes something by watching the most current generation of Kyoryugers. And despite his own doubt about his bravery, he was able to cultivate bravery in others. And if he can inspire others to have bravery, the bravery necessary to access the power of a Kyoryuger, why can't he? Allow him to finally transform the Kyoryu Silver, which is all the more powerful as the opponent he fights in his debut as Kyoryu Silver is a clone ever since everything his creator wanted him to be. Some sadistic douchebag who enjoyed the suffering of others instead of the warrior just as he became. Just the GOAT. I also like the moments of comedy they give bro since he's serious all the time. Like him being deeply invested in some romance manga and him being invested in kaiju movies, which he speaks with the same tone and reference as he does when talking about our heroes and their exploits, makes him more likable than you would be without that. Hopefully with this, I was able to express why I think these guys are pretty cool and should definitely not be overlooked. But hey, Kyoryuger is just the show that keeps on giving because the villains are pretty good too. Yes, so the boss tribe itself is actually a pretty great group of villains. We are going to talk about the boss and the chaos because they're not that interested despite doing their jobs being the two major villains of the series pretty adequately. Also, while we're here, do you notice any theme of the boss tribe members? If you don't, they're based on characters from the Wizard of Oz. You got the Tin Man, the Cowardly Lion, the Scarecrow, Dorothy, and the Flying Monkey. When you get to their actual characters, you start off with Igron, who wants to collect human sadness. He's not that interesting at first, outside of just being like the killer of Ian's friend, until he blows up and comes back having developed more human feelings. He goes from being a being who just cries all the time and wants to make others sad, to a person with a desire to love and be loved, as seen with his relationship with Candelaria, which makes it all the more sad when he learns that he's actually been dead for half the series. He's nothing more than an undead slave to Lord Chaos, who will now be defeated for being nothing more than a failure, even after being brought back from death. Making not only me, the audience, but Ian, the guy who should hate him the most, feel legitimate sadness at his state. Then you get to the goal who wants to collect anger, and at first, he's just some prideful and angry dude who was rumbling up a literal storm when he gets angry. Then we learn that he's a suit of armor. His entire existence is built upon him being dependent on other beings to survive, which while he masks with anger makes him extremely self-conscious. People like later villain Endolf literally mocking him by just calling him armor. This is even better reflective of his rivalry with Uchi. It starts off as him just wanting to fight the guy who made him feel the strongest as a being, to the goal getting Uchi to kill him in a sword clash, despite them being on opposing sides. Uchi respected the goal as his own being, except from whatever body he was currently inhabiting. Then you get to Candelaria and Lucario, wants to collect joy, and they seem kinda out of place. Unlike anger and sadness, which while naturally feel are mostly emotions with negative connotations, joy is the literal ideal of what one would consider a positive emotion. They don't want to truly hurt anybody, all they want to do is sing and dance in Candelaria's case, and read manga and have fun in Lucario's case. Pretty much only kept around as their necessary requirements to revive Lord of the Boss. The only thing keeping them from integrating with human society is their monstrous appearances. But eventually, due to Nobuharu's earnestness, Candelaria is able to see that humans can grow to like her if she just shows them kindness, which when the boss turns against her is exactly what she and Lucario and Toad show does, leading them on a path where they eventually become Torin's replacements in the future. See a common theme here? The theme is that despite them wanting to grasp onto humanity through lacking emotions, they already have the humanity in them, which not only is a pretty good parallel to the story of the Wizard of Oz, as that story also ends with all the heroes learning that they already possess their desired qualities, but is also the literal ethos of the show. Bravery is something that every person on this planet has, they just have to find it within them, which is a good point to lead into our talk about the final point about the show in general. The last one we have to talk about is Endolf, a being created to collect resentment. The series views resentment as the opposite of bravery. At first I thought it was weird until I fully understood the idea. Having resentment towards someone or something shows the unwillingness to grow or become anything, but instead just wallow in that state of thinking, which goes against the show's view of bravery. As to be brave, you have to overcome the things that make you scared or worried to become stronger. This is also shown by how he's the only general to never change, just being an evil, sadistic waste of space until his very end of existence. While all his compatriots went out with these tragic and heartwarming endings, he just went out in a forgettable whimper. Don't be like Endolf, be like Daigo, be like Ian, be like Nosan, be like Soji, be like Amy, be like Uchi, be like Ramirez, be like Tessai, be like Ayoi, be like Torin, be like Aigeron, be like DeGold, be like Candelaria, be like Lucario, and keep growing as a person, and always believe that you can be better and overcome things. That's the message Kyoryuger wants to give the audience, I think. Maybe it's not that deep. I think the fact that I got that type of message and spoke this long about a show where people in spandex suits inspired by dinosaurs use batteries to control giant robot dinosaurs all with a gun that plays festival music speaks more than enough to this show's quality. So overall, would I recommend Kyoryuger? Absolutely. More than any other show I've talked about so far. From the characters, to the music that we barely even got into, and the action we barely even got into. Just top tier all around, top 1 Sentai, and just one of my favorite things of all time. If you got a chance, watch Kyoryuger. Maybe you'll have a good time. Thanks to all of you who have subscribed so far, and let's go into the new year with potentially better videos, and potentially even more positivity. Either way, I hope you can join me alongside in this journey. See you next time in another review.